Archaeologists have discovered a huge ancient city hidden underground in Mexico, which may give a better understanding of the Maya civilization.
Until today, no one believed some civilizations could be this old. However, in 1947, something was uncovered in the Valsequillo Basin, a wide volcanic valley southeast of Mexico City. This challenged what archaeologists believed about humans when they first arrived in the Americas. While digging for a new irrigation system near Puebla, construction workers hit something unexpected, buried deep in rock layers, estimated to be over 250,000 years old.
Where are the smaller versions of this? Well, we don't find any. So we don't have a progression, an evolution to show where this came from.
Join us in this video as we explore the strange thing archaeologists discovered in Mexico that doesn't fit any history book. Something strange about how old Mexico really is. These weren't just naturally shaped stones. They had been clearly carved and crafted by human hands. That created a serious problem. According to established history, humans weren't supposed to be in the Americas until about 13,000 years ago. This discovery didn't just raise questions, it completely disrupted the timeline. And that was only the beginning. In the same layers of Earth, researchers found something even more puzzling: carved bones showing extinct animals like mastodons, giant sloths, and saber-toothed cats. These carvings were detailed and lifelike, suggesting the artists had seen these animals firsthand. This wasn't art based on fossils discovered later. The scenes showed movement, animals hunting, interacting, details that only direct observation could capture. The implications were huge. Whoever made these carvings must have lived alongside these animals, which went extinct more than 10,000 years ago. They watched them, understood them, and recorded what they saw with surprising accuracy, so much so that modern scientists could compare the carvings to fossil evidence. In the 1960s, archaeologist Cynthia Irwin Williams led major excavations in the area. Her team documented over 2,000 artifacts across 4 different sites near the ancient lakebed. They found stone tools like scrapers, blades, and projectile points, all buried within volcanic ash layers. Geologists later confirmed that these ash layers were formed during the Sangamonian interglacial period, a warm phase between ice ages that lasted roughly from 80,000 to 220,000 years ago. If the dating was correct, and several independent tests suggested it was, then it meant humans were making tools in Mexico at a time when Neanderthals still lived in Europe and modern Homo sapiens were only just beginning to appear in Africa. That timeline didn't fit with any accepted model of human migration. For decades, the dominant explanation has been the Bering Land Bridge theory. It says humans crossed from Siberia into Alaska about 15,000 years ago, when melting ice sheets opened a route into the Americas. But these tools seem to be up to 200,000 years older than that. This wasn't a small error that could be brushed off as a dating mistake. It was a massive gap, one that challenged entire chapters of human history. Either the dating methods were completely wrong across multiple tests, or the story of how humans reached the Americas needed to be rewritten from scratch. What does this discovery change about what we believe and do not believe about history? What has been the response to this discovery? Keep watching to find out. It doesn't fit any history books, but it's true. Many archaeologists reacted with strong skepticism, even outright rejection. Critics offered several alternative explanations. Some suggested the artifacts had been moved from their original position, pushed into older layers by natural processes like burrowing animals, mixing the soil or water, slowly shifting sediments over time. Others argued that the carved bones were made much later. In that version, people may have found ancient fossils and carved them, creating the illusion that humans and extinct animals existed at the same time. There were also claims that the site had been contaminated, perhaps disturbed during construction, allowing more recent objects to end up in much older layers. Because the claims were so extraordinary, scientists demanded equally strong evidence. and many felt the Valsequillo findings didn't quite meet that standard. But the site wasn't just a one-off anomaly that could be easily dismissed as a mistake or contamination. More discoveries like this kept turning up across Mexico. Each one challenged accepted timelines and raised difficult questions about what really happened in the distant past of the Americas. In the years after the Valsequillo finds, archaeologists continued to uncover evidence that didn't fit the standard story. Then, in 1959, near the small town of Hueyatlaco, just a few kilometers from the original sites, excavators discovered something even more controversial: what appeared to be an ancient butchering site. The evidence was hard to ignore. Stone tools were found alongside the broken bones of extinct animals, showing clear signs that the animals had been cut and processed for meat and marrow. It looked like a site where humans had systematically butchered large animals. But the real shock came from the dating. When geologists tested the surrounding volcanic layers using uranium-thorium analysis, the results suggested the site was at least 250,000 years old. Some estimates pushed it as far back as 370,000 years. That would mean human activity in Mexico existed long before modern humans even appeared. The reaction was intense. The Hueyatlaco findings sparked major controversy in the scientific community. In 1981, geologist Virginia Steen McIntyre, who helped conduct the dating, faced serious backlash for standing by the results. Her work was rejected, colleagues distanced themselves, and her career suffered because the findings were seen as too disruptive to accepted theories. The message seemed clear. Some ideas were simply too far outside the established narrative to be accepted, no matter the evidence. Does this mean that her findings were false? What exists today to prove that she was right? Let's see. Mexico might be older than all other parts of the world. Further south, in the state of Puebla, another strange discovery emerged, this time in the form of the Acambaro figurines. Between 1944 and 1952, a local merchant named Waldemar Julsrud uncovered more than 33,000 clay figures from the hills around Acambaro. The collection was massive and strange. It included detailed figures of people from different cultures, along with musical instruments, tools, and everyday items. But what really shocked researchers were the figurines that looked like dinosaurs. These weren't just rough, mythical creatures you could dismiss as imagination. Many appeared to closely resemble known species like Brachiosaurus, Stegosaurus, and Pteranodon. The level of detail was striking: accurate body shapes, posture, and proportions that scientists only fully understood after modern fossil reconstructions in the 20th century. Naturally, many skeptics called it a hoax. They argued that Waldemar Julsrud may have hired local artisans to create the figurines, possibly inspired by dinosaur images from books or films. But that explanation had problems. Some of the figurines seemed to show species that weren't widely known or correctly reconstructed until years after they were supposedly discovered. And the scale of the collection raised more questions. Over 33,000 pieces would have required a great, organized effort, with many people working full-time for years. Tests added another layer of complexity. In the 1970s, thermoluminescence dating on some samples suggested the clay had been fired between 2,500 and 4,000 years ago, long before modern paleontology existed. If those results were accurate, the implications would be extraordinary. It would mean ancient Mesoamerican cultures somehow represented creatures believed to have gone extinct 65 million years before humans appeared. To address this, mainstream explanations leaned toward mythology. One idea is that ancient people may have found dinosaur fossils and interpreted them creatively, similar to how the ancient Greeks may have imagined the Cyclops after discovering large skulls. But even that theory doesn't fully explain the level of detail. These figures weren't just vague monsters. They showed features like skin texture, limb structure, and tail positioning, details that bones alone usually don't reveal. Some figurines even appear to show dinosaurs interacting with humans or wearing decorative elements, suggesting familiarity rather than guesswork. And the mystery doesn't end there. What other archaeological impossibility exists out there? What does it mean for the world and all we used to know? Keep watching to find out. The explanations are true. Mexico is stranger than we know. Similar puzzling artifacts have been reported elsewhere, including the Ica stones in Peru, as well as engraved objects found at some sites in Mexico. Thousands of andesite stones, covered in detailed carvings, began appearing in the 1960s and 1970s. These carvings showed humans alongside dinosaurs, scenes of advanced surgery, and even what looked like astronomical charts. Most of the attention focused on the Ica stones in Peru, but similar, less publicized discoveries were reported in parts of Mexico, including Oaxaca and Chiapas. These stones also showed scenes that didn't fit with accepted history. Across all these sites, a troubling pattern emerged. Ancient cultures in the Americas seemed to depict knowledge of animals, science, and even technology that they shouldn't have had. None of this aligned with the standard story taught in schools. For most of the 20th century, American archaeology was shaped by the Clovis first model. According to this theory, the first humans entered the Americas around 13,000 years ago, crossing the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia. From there, they spread southward and gradually developed into the civilizations we know, like the Maya, Aztec, and Inca. But discoveries like these didn't fit that simple timeline. Instead, they hinted at something more complex and possibly much older happening in the Americas. Then there's the architecture. In some cases, it raises even more questions than the artifacts. Deep in the jungles of Chiapas, near the Guatemala border, lies the ancient Maya city of Palenque. According to established history, it flourished between 226 and 799 CE, but some of its structures seem to suggest knowledge beyond what the Maya were thought to have at the time. What structures show these? How did they exceed what the Maya knew? Let's see. Beyond archaeology, ancient Mexico mastered astronomy. One of the most debated examples is the Temple of the Inscriptions, built as a tomb for the ruler Kinich Janab Pakal. Inside, a carved stone slab shows Pakal surrounded by symbols tied to Maya cosmology. Mainstream archaeology interprets this as his journey into the underworld, a symbolic and spiritual scene consistent with Maya beliefs. Some engineers and aerospace specialists have looked at that carving and seen something very different. Without approaching it from a traditional archaeological viewpoint, they've suggested it resembles a person operating complex machinery, possibly even a vehicle or control system. In this interpretation, the figure appears reclined, with hands positioned as if handling controls. Around him are shapes that can look mechanical, along with forms that some people compare to exhaust or propulsion. The real debate isn't about whether the Maya created the carving, it's about what they meant to show. Were they illustrating a symbolic journey, as mainstream archaeology says, or were they depicting something based on observation or inherited knowledge? The mystery deepens when you look at the precision of the city itself. At Palenque, many structures are carefully aligned with celestial events. For example, parts of the palace complex line up with the winter solstice sunset, while the Temple of the Sun aligns with the summer solstice. These aren't rough estimates. They suggest careful planning and a strong understanding of astronomy. The Maya also developed the Maya long count calendar, which tracks time over cycles lasting more than 5,000 years. Its starting point, often converted to August 11th, 3114 BCE, raises interesting questions. Why that exact date? What event did it mark? There's no clear written explanation, which has led some to think the knowledge may have come from earlier traditions now lost. Across various sites in Mexico, archaeologists have found copper bells, gold ornaments, and bronze tools that raise questions about how and when metalworking developed in the region. Many of these artifacts have been studied, restudied, and debated using different methods, but interpretation remains divided. The central question is not whether the objects exist. They do, but what they truly represent. Are they evidence of earlier migrations lost knowledge, and interrupted cultural development? Or are they misread artifacts, symbolic traditions, and rare but explainable anomalies within known history? For now, that uncertainty is exactly where the discussion remains. Do these discoveries match the stories about Mexico that we've always known? Keep watching to find out. The City of Mexico. Mexico, officially known as the United Mexican States, is a country in North America. It is the northernmost country in Latin America, sharing borders with the United States to the north and Guatemala and Belize to the southeast. It also has coastlines along the Pacific Ocean, west, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico. Mexico covers about 1.97 million square kilometers, making it the 13th largest country in the world. With a population of over 130 million people, it is the 10th most populous country globally and has the largest number of Spanish speakers. Its capital and largest city, Mexico City, is one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the world. Human history in Mexico goes back at least to 8000 BC. The region known as Mesoamerica became one of the world's early centers of civilization, home to advanced societies such as the Olmec, Maya civilization, Zapotec civilization, Teotihuacan civilization, and Purépecha. In 1521, Spanish forces, along with indigenous allies, defeated the Aztec Empire, marking the beginning of Spanish rule. The territory became known as New Spain, with its capital at Tenochtitlan, modern-day Mexico City. During the Age of Discovery, it grew into a major economic hub, driven largely by silver mining and trade between Europe and Asia. Mexico's path to independence began with the Mexican War of Independence, which ended Spanish rule in 1821. The country briefly became the first Mexican empire before transitioning into a republic. In 1848, after the Mexican-American War, Mexico lost nearly half of its territory to the United States. Later, internal conflicts and foreign intervention led to the establishment of the Second Mexican Empire under Maximilian I of Mexico, who was eventually overthrown by Republican forces led by Benito Juárez. The late 19th century was dominated by the long rule of Porfirio Díaz, whose modernization efforts came with significant inequality and unrest. This eventually sparked the Mexican Revolution, a major conflict that reshaped the country and led to the adoption of the 1917 Constitution, which still forms the basis of Mexico's political system today. Mexico is considered a newly industrialized and developing country. It has the 15th largest economy in the world by nominal GDP and ranks 13th when measured by purchasing power parity. The country is also rich in culture and heritage. It ranks first in the Americas and 7th globally for the number of UNESCO World Heritage Sites, reflecting its deep historical and cultural significance. In terms of nature, Mexico is one of the world's 17 megadiverse countries and is ranked 5th for overall biodiversity. Tourism plays a major role in its economy. As of 2022, Mexico was the 6th most visited country in the world, attracting over 42 million international visitors. What do you think about the recent discoveries made about Mexico and what it has changed in the accuracy of history? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for joining us as we explored the interesting discoveries made about Mexico's true origins. We hope you found this video both interesting and enlightening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to explore more interesting discoveries. See you there.